Hi everyone, it's Lou Collins, and today I want to kind of introduce you to a brand that's been available on CraftStash as the only UK supplier of this brand for a little while. But it's absolutely beautiful. We've not yet had chance to really look at it and focus on it, and I'm fortunate enough to have been sent some of the products from this brand, and I'm going to make a card with you. I'm going to make it kind of a bit of a vintage, softer card rather than being very, very bright. But let's just take a look at some of these. In fact, I've got a couple more of the dies as well just here, so you can get a bit of an overview of the style. But Paper Rose Studio. Now, Paper Rose Studio is an Australian company. Like I say, CraftStash are the only UK supplier for this brand. We've got beautiful cutting dies. We've also got other products on the website as well. But VIPs, there is a very special offer coming out to you this week with Paper Rose Studio, and particularly this bundle of dies, which is really exciting. So take a look at that. Keep an eye on your inbox, your email inbox. Have a look in the CraftStash VIP hub for that offer. So we've got lots of happy birthday sentiment dies. We've got this lovely cake as well. We've got candles and such. I'm going to be working with these two and also this one, just to show you how your sentiment dies don't actually have to be the main sentiment. Now, something a little bit extra as well, I'm going to only be using white cardstock for this card. I am going to be adding ink and things, but I'm not using any coloured cardstock. It's a really good way of using up your scraps that you've got laying around. So let's get started. Now, as I'm using a white card base, I want to add a touch of colour to this, and that's going to be with one of my Distress Oxide in Iced Spruce, which is one of my favourite colours at the moment. So I'm just going to create a bit of a background. Now, it's going to be really quite subtle once we get everything laid on top, but it's going to be stronger in the centre here, and I'm not going to put any more on my brush now. I'm just going to keep working out with what's on there and blending that out until it's literally nothing really. Very, very little in the way of colour. So you can see that's starting to blend outwards. There we go. Now I'm not worried about any smudges or lines. So I've got a little bit here. I'm not worried. I'm just going to keep going out and going out. I'm going to distress this a little bit further as well. So I think that's about as much ink as we're going to get on there. Now I'm also going to bring in some water, and I'm going to spritz this into my hand and flick onto that ink. So that's going to give it a bit of a speckled look, give it lots of texture as well. Now, while that is just working, I'm also going to come onto one of my blending mats, and this is a CraftStash clear blending mat. I'm going to put a little bit, just a touch of Iced Spruce on there, and then spritz some water to water that down, and just pick it up with my paintbrush and flick a few dots of it around the edge. You see how I said I'm not worried too much about the outline and any smudges and things that aren't perfect. That's because we're adding all this texture in there. So now all I need to do is allow that to dry, but I can put that aside for a moment while I die cut the next section. So also put my blending mat aside. And I'm going to use this beautiful, it's a kind of a very almost handwritten font, but very fine and delicate Happy Birthday die set. Now you've got, it's all one, the outline is all one piece. If I just show you, there's 3 dies to here. So you've got the word birthday, you've got the word happy, and then you've got the border, which is actually 2 separate pieces. So I'm not going to be using this today, but I am going to be cutting lots of these out. Now I want to cut this probably at least, I don't know, 7 times I think would be enough to cover the background of my card base. So I've die cut the Happy Birthday sentiments. I actually went for 5 times in the end. I can always cut more if I need, and I'm just using the CraftStash bookbinding glue. It's got a really nice fine tip applicator on it, and the tweezers I'm using are from the Made to Surprise craft tool, that's what it's called, wallet, that's the one, craft tool wallet. So just spacing these out, I want to put the first happy birthday in the center, and then I'm going to work out from there. So happy, any glue that I've got excess glue will dry. So the idea is that because this is white, the same as my card base, hopefully it will almost look as if this has just been a resist in the ink. Maybe a little bit of a sort of embossed detail because it's slightly raised up, and just give it a really nice textured effect without actually using too much in the way of supplies or cardstock. So you can just see the first one over there, and then I'm going to carry on with another one here and so on. So put all 5 on the background. There we go. So I've actually filled my background there with that sentiment, all glued down, nicely spaced out. But the beauty of this font in this die is that because it is a bit like a handwritten font, quite a nice loose relaxed font, you don't have to worry about perfect spacing with this because it just looks as if someone sort of scribbled on the background. So that's how I've used that die. Now let's come to my other 2 that I've chosen. Let's build up the cake next. So this is a lovely outline die. There's lots of things you can be doing with an outline die, but I'm actually going to paper piece back into it. So again, I'm going to use my white paper, my cardstock here. I've got a scrap. I'm hoping this will just about fit on there. I think it should do. Yeah, literally just about fit on. So let's take that down so it doesn't move in my die cutting machine. And I'm going to be using the Creative Craft Products low tack tape for this. Just a little bit is enough to hold it still. Now don't forget your die, the outline of your die is always a little bit larger than the actual cutting edge. So even though that's ever so slightly overlapping the outside of the die, it's absolutely fine. So just trim my cardstock down, just a touch. I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine. Now, when I take this out, I'm going to be really careful because I want to keep all the pieces. So I'm going to remove the outer waste here first. And then I'm going to take the tape off, put that on my machine to use another time, and carefully pop out all the pieces here. So just use my pokey tool again, that's come from the Made to Surprise craft wallet. There we go. So there's all the inside pieces, and then we're left with this lovely outline as well. Just there. So you could just use this on its own if you wanted to. But like I say, I'm going to paper piece everything back in. Before I do that though, I want to ensure that I'm going to be able to raise this up from the background ever so slightly. So I'm going to recut this die using, let's just grab this, some of my Creative Craft Products. This is the double-sided adhesive foam. I'm going to die cut the entire cake here. Let's just see. Trying not to be wasteful, so trying to make sure I squeeze as much onto this sheet as possible. I think I'll have to go this way. Okay, let's cut it there and cut round it. You never know when you might be able to use the tiny little waste bits. Now with foam, I run it through my machine once. I never run it back again because the foam will always move in the die and you'll double cut it and you'll get those sort of wispy edges. We don't want that. Okay, now I intend on keeping the, I don't know actually. I was thinking to myself, I'm going to keep the outline white, but I don't know, I might do it black. Do you know what? I'm going to put this back into the outline, the background there. So let's just show you what I'm doing. And do I need to flip that over? I think I do, for that to fit. It's a bit like putting a piece of jigsaw back in, like so. Okay, and I'm carefully going to just put my pokey tool through the release holes there and try to get everything out, or as much out as possible, still in one piece inside the waste. And I'll show you why. Because if I just take my die cutting plates away a moment, and put that. Yep, that's all fit in there. Make sure that's all in its original shape, because this shape, if I cut this from foam, which I have, and I take this out, it's going to bend and stretch and move and basically be misshapen. So by keeping it inside the rest of the foam like there, if I just remove this outline, it's going to of course come off in a few different pieces, but just carefully take these away. There, and I think one more there. So there might be a little bit more there. So the backing came off beautifully. Just a little bit there. There we go. I can now place my white cardstock over the top of this, and I know it's the perfect shape. Nothing has become misaligned, and that's going to sit on there. And of course, if I need to, I can lift it up and re-stick it. So that's going to attach just in the right place over there, everything remaining the correct shape. Like I say, no stretching of the foam. If you've ever tried to die cut some foam in a really delicate shape and then place it on your card still in that shape, you'll know how it can move about quite a lot. There, so now I can take this out of here. Now I think what I might do is I might just pop the foam out. I'm not sure if I'm going to actually have the base. I think I might have the base without foam, so the sponge part of the cake without foam, and the icing can have the foam underneath for dimension. Okay, looking good. Right, so what I need to do is pick out the sponge parts. That's the 3 bottom parts there, and these are going to be inked a little bit, just a touch, with tea dye. Okay, so just putting a resistant bit of plastic just under here. It's actually a bit of packaging. I'm not sure where my blending mat's gone today. There we go, and I'm going to ink these from the bottom. See, it's quite a deep colour. It's actually deeper than I thought it would be, so I think I'll ink the bottom with this, and then I think what I might do is actually find a slightly paler colour within the Oxide range, but the browns. So let me see, what have I got? I've got frayed burlap. That's a much paler colour. So let's find the, there we go. There's the brush for that one. Let's come in from the top in that one. So we're doing a couple of different browns. I might need to hold this actually just with my tweezers, because this one's tiddly tiny. Yeah, that's much better. I've got the warmth of that tea dye there. Yeah, let's blend that all in. I quite like to have almost an ombre effect anyway. So I've got frayed burlap there, that's blended that in nicely. So I'm going to place this down onto my card. I'll take all the backing off the pieces that I'm going to keep. That's sticky, and just that piece as well. And place this a little bit tilted for a bit of fun there. And then I'm going to take my glue and just pop that inside here. And this should fit nicely in there. Lovely. Now, as before, I want to use my white cardstock scraps. So just peeling my die. It does have a bit of tape on the back which attaches it to your backing card. I've just torn mine, but you can probably be more careful and take that off without tearing. Can I fit this onto this scrap? Hopefully. Yes, I think I can. There we go. So I can still carry on using my scraps of cardstock that I already have laying around. Now once again I have cut that from foam, so I'll pop that to the side and use that in a moment. Now to colour these, I want to go a little bit brighter with the colour on these, brighter than the background, so bringing in some, do you know, I think I might switch to more of a green. With ice spruce, we've got salvage patina, which is a lovely bright green, blue green. I think I might go more green than blue. So I was going to use broken china, but I think I'm going to switch to evergreen bough. So just swap over my blending brushes. So for each of these two, in fact, I will need to just cut these so that I don't get ink in the wrong places. I'm just going to start at the top of the word and blend in the lighter colour. And this is the easiest way of doing it, rather than trying to do it while it's once it's taken out. And then evergreen bough, I'm going to come into the bottom. So it's darker colour, darker green, beautiful colour. And blend that one up there. Could probably even afford to go a bit darker if we wanted. I think I'll be quite happy with that. Just set that aside to dry while I do exactly the same with birthday as well. And then I'm going to just slot this so that the T and the H fit between the two P's, and the D also sits. And I love this sentiment because you can kind of manipulate it a little bit and reshape it to fit your cards. So I've just moved that around so that these letters sit nicely within each other. Now to echo the bright colours that are here, I'm also going to cut the candles out, these ones here. Now I'm going to ink in exactly the same way. Let's just find my last little scrap of white cardstock. Here's one. So I'll just take probably what I've got on my brush will be enough. I don't think I'll need to do any more, maybe a little bit, just to get a deeper, darker colour. But this is the evergreen bough. There we go, leaving a little bit of white at the top there, because when I cut my candles, I want to have it pale enough at the top to just use a little bit of yellow pen or something, just to make the flame on there. So there we go. I think I will leave the icing white on the cake. I think that will look quite nice white rather than having it coloured. It was originally going to be coloured. I think that will be fine as it is. Now these are going to be quite delicate. So what I'm going to do is leave them in the die for now, because these are again our outlines but also with centerpieces in them. So I'm going to put glue along each one all the way up. I quite like the spacing on the candles as they are. I can then flip these over, pop them, just tuck that, if I just lift that up a little bit, just on there, and then take my pokey tool, and there's release holes all the way along here, and I can press those down, and hopefully the majority of what's inside this die will stick to my background. Now lastly, I decided to keep the icing white, so I'm just going to remove what I can of the icing there and place paper piece in these cardstock pieces. So they're quite bold, they're nice and easy to do, and that will just give it the finished matte look and a much brighter white than those adhesive pieces are. There we go. I do hope you've enjoyed seeing that come together from Paper Rose Studio dies. Now don't forget, these elements are part of a bundle that is just for CraftStash VIPs, so you can go and check that out. But that is a fairly simple card using literally just my white scraps of cardstock and some ink. So like I say, I hope you've enjoyed that, and I'll be back again very soon with another paper craft tutorial for you. Take care everybody, see you soon.